What's up, guys? I'm going to go on a little bit of a realtor rant. This message is for real estate agents. My name is Brian Mayer with the Mayer Group of DXP Realty, and I want to talk about how to not blow up the home inspection process when you're involved in buying or selling a house. And it's the number one reason why deals fall apart. And I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to avoid allowing the home inspection to blow up the deal. And if you have any tips, I ask you to please send me a message and let me know, or give me a call. So the first one is a technique I learned in a negotiating class, and that is to always be aware of what is a priority to the other person. So when I take a listing, I always explain the home inspection process to the seller. I let them know that the buyer is incentivized to ask for repairs. In fact, we avoid a lot of this because we get a pre-home inspection, which I should probably say is a tip. But I'm really looking at this from representing a buyer and how to get through the process as a buyer. So as a buyer, one of the things that when I'm representing a buyer, I want to always know how the seller feels about everything. And then when I'm the listing agent, I always want to know how the buyer feels about everything. So after the home inspection as a listing agent, usually what happens is they call and say, how did it go? And the better question in my mind that I always ask is, how does the buyer feel about it? How do they feel about the home inspection? Is there anything that they're overly concerned about? What I find is sometimes the buyer is more concerned about something that is not as much of a big deal as something else that's maybe more expensive that would probably concern the seller more. And if you know what it is that is giving the buyer anxiety, and you can start the process of resolving that issue for them. Like, let's just say, for instance, you go there and worst case scenario, there's mold in the crawl space. What are they freaking out about? Oh, they're not worried about this, or this, but the mold in the crawl space hasn't freaked out. Get on the phone with the mold guy, get them over there immediately, make sure they know there's going to be a warranty. Ask them, well, does that make them feel like they want to cancel the contract? What can I do to make them feel better? Get in their head and try to understand how to avoid allowing the buyer's anxiety or what it is they're worried about to just get completely missed and you don't even know about it. Just be surprised that you don't never get surprised. The second thing is, when you're negotiating, never negotiate first through the contract. And the reason why is because the contract is permanent, and the way it works in the state of Maryland is a buyer has a certain amount of days to turn in a request for repairs. The seller then has 5 days to respond, and then the buyer has 2 days to accept or reject their response. If the seller does not agree to every single thing the buyer wants, the buyer has the right to terminate that contract. So what I do is I email the buyer's agent and I say, hey, listen, if the seller only was going to fix A, B, and C and not D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, how do you think your buyer would feel about it? Listen, they did a lot of stuff before the house went on the market, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do you think they would feel if that was going to be our response? They come back and say, oh, we're canceling the contract. Okay, it's glad that you told me that. Let's see if we can work something out. What if we did A, B, C, D, and E, and F? And work it that way. And then once you have an agreement, okay, they agree, we agree. Let's put it in writing, get everybody to sign it, and we're all good. The last one is to know your deadlines. I just got an email the other day from an agent who said that the buyer was out of town, couldn't get the home inspection, and now would like to do the home inspection 3 days after the deadline, and then they asked for repairs 12 days after the deadline. My seller's not obligated to do any of it, and he knows that. Go back to tip number 1, and I had to ask the question, well, if the seller doesn't do it, how does your buyer feel about it? Like, these were somewhat minor things, but sometimes somewhat minor things can make the buyer absolutely freak out and want to blow up the deal. So I asked them the question, how do they feel about it? Out of the generosity of my client's heart, she's going to fix a couple things just to kind of keep things moving along. But outside of the deadline, nobody's obligated to do anything. And I can't imagine, if I told that guy no, what he's going to feel like going back to his client and saying, well, we had this amount of days and we missed it. And, I know he's going to end up in hot water over that situation. So know your deadlines. Guys, if you have any tips on how to avoid blowing up a home inspection, I didn't cover something that's unique, is not total common sense. Send it to me. I'd love to hear it. Make it a great day.